Welcome to Good Morning Hospitality, your one-stop shop for the latest news, noteworthy trends, and thought-provoking discussions across the industry. From hotels and short-term rentals to all things travel and hospitality, you'll find each episode equips you with the information that you need to start your week. Join us on Good Morning Hospitality every Monday, wherever you get your podcasts.
Hello.
Hi, Leo. How's it going? Long time
I'm very
no
well,
see.
thank you. I know it feels like days since we last hung out.
Exactly. Good to see you.
So when we left each other, and when the audience left you last, Sarah, we were debating beach party or Pilates. What happened?
Oh,
Which option
no.
won?
Oh, Leo, I'm an idiot. I have my calendar wrong. So I went home. I changed into my Pilates clothes. I rush over to Pilates. I get there. And my instructor's like, no, you're signed up for Thursday. What are you doing? Go home. You don't have a class today. But I figured I'd already made the good choice, the healthy choice that day. So I chose not to go out to the beach party. But how was it? How did it go?
It was great. It was brilliant. But you know what? It wasn't really beach weather. So we had a great time in Barcelona. I was showing off all the previous week to my partner saying, I'm going to work on my suntan. I'm going to swim in the Mediterranean. I then spent, I'm not kidding. I spent 30 minutes in the airport choosing sunglasses because I was like, here we go. I meant, summer's coming for me. So I'm picking sunglasses and I arrive and it was absolutely pissing down with rain for 2 days. So I don't know if it was beach party weather, but we certainly made the best of it without you. And you made a smart choice not telling me that you hadn't gone to Pilates, or I'd have been hounding you to come out and party, right?
Yeah, I'm sure you would have. That would have been a poor life choice for me, I think. Well, it's interesting about the weather. I think we'll probably touch on that a little bit later in the episode. Maybe you could have gotten some of your money back, huh?
Good segue. I like it. Sarah, what have you got going on? You going somewhere? You traveling? You on holiday? What's happening?
No, I am finally home for the foreseeable future. It's about time. So I have a bunch of local events, friends' birthday parties and things like that. But no, it's nice to actually just be in one place for a while. What about you?
Well, I was going to say, when you live in Barcelona, it's like you live on holiday anyway, right? Because it's such a cool place, isn't it? I had a lovely few days, actually, despite the rain. I love hanging out there. So now I'm back. I'm firmly back in the UK. We've been looking at primary schools for our daughter. So we're down on the south coast looking at trying to pick where we want her to go to school. So dad life. What can I say? It's definitely been a bit different, but we'll hopefully have some nice weather over the next couple of days and head down to the beach. And what we have here is very, very, the water's still very cold. Anyone that lives in and around the UK or that western part of France on the channel will tell you that even if it's warm on the beach, it can be really icy in the water at this time of year. So it's not quite.
I mean, I don't even swim in the Mediterranean except for in August. So no way in hell I'd be in the Atlantic. Sorry.
Well, Sarah, we've got a packed show this week. Thanks for joining me again.
Sure.
Let's start where we always like to start, and I hope that somewhere Rafi's watching on, just delighted that we're focusing on this again. But we said we'd keep looking at it, and it seems the articles are coming thick and fast. So Paris Olympics, we've got something from Skift. Short-term rental platforms are seeing a Paris Olympics spike. Is this right? What's the data saying?
It's a bit of clickbait, huh? I mean, we talked about this last week. So absolutely, in the beginning, there was a huge increase. There still is, a higher number of demand nights being booked for the Paris Olympics than we would have seen for the same time the year prior. But what we're not seeing is that the supply is there. So that doesn't really even out. If you even it out against the properties, it's less exciting. The other phenomenon that we're seeing is the price dips that we talked about on the last episode. So we've been seeing these kind of price drops between ever since March. So all of March and April, prices are dropping. I think we're starting to see hosts getting worried that nobody's going to book their property. I guess the good news for them is that there's still a huge portion of attendees, which are kind of the cheerleaders, right? So this is the family members of those coming to participate in the Olympics. And in many cases, people don't even know if they've qualified yet. So I think just to send a little message of hope, and obviously you're looking at big countries with a lot of participation coming to these kind of events. And so we are expecting to see an uptick, particularly in the Americans. They love a bit of an Olympics. So so I think things are looking up, but we are starting to see people panic, drop prices. That we imagine that will continue. And we did notice that if you booked earlier on, initially you kind of got a better rate, but we expect that trend to reverse as the dates get closer and hosts start trying to just fill the space. I think the other thing to point out is in that supply. So we're seeing a big influx in supply. Paris is one of the markets that has kind of the lowest number of professional operators, just due to some of the restrictions and regulations there. So the majority of the properties being run are kind of mom and pop or somebody who's putting their property on temporarily. So that supply is very expansive in a city like Paris.
Okay, very interesting. So again, not much has changed, the data's showing, but potentially people starting to panic, drop their prices. And maybe what I'm hearing is the people that have to go because they'd be impolite not to go and cheer your family member on at the Olympics might come and save the day a little bit for the city of Paris.
That's right. Yeah. I mean, just last week, searches were up 122% by Americans looking at locations in Paris. So it's a good indicator.
Very interesting. Now, Sarah, let's compare and contrast. So let's look at one of the highlights of the European calendar, which is the Eurovision Song Contest. And I'd like to apologize to all of my fellow Europeans for not mentioning it last week. I messaged Sarah after the show and said, dude, I can't believe we didn't do it. I feel terrible. Sarah, I mean, have you caught the bug? Are you, how long have you been living in Europe? Are you kind of a fan?
I've been in Europe almost 14 years now. And I remember the first time I discovered that Eurovision existed. I remember I was like, this is amazing. It's like American Idol, but countries. It's fabulous. And so I got super into it. Believe it or not, this year I did not watch it. I think I've gotten so jaded by, Spain just never gets any votes. It's embarrassing. How do we even get, I know we're part of the big five or whatever it is that you get included. It's like a consolation prize for like being a founding member of the European Union. I don't understand. I don't get it. Yeah. But
it's ridiculous, isn't it? We're the same. We never get any votes, bar one year, the Sam Ryder year, which I hope you did watch. Now, I'd love to play some of the songs here, but I know we can't do it for rights reasons. I also won't sing them because I'll butcher them. But we had a really good. The UK had a really good entry a couple of years ago, and we didn't win. But we came second. And apart from that, I think we're quite deeply unpopular within Europe as well, which doesn't help, right? So you don't get any sort of nice, friendly votes, even if you are a bit rubbish, right?
Yeah, Brexit did not help. And you would think Spain, everybody's here on holiday all the time. Give us some votes. But no, maybe they figure we've got enough with the sunshine and paella and sangria. I don't know.
Well, I think what the article, and I'm excited to see that it's from the short-term rentals, and I spoke to Paul about Eurovision, so maybe we inspired this article. I don't know. But okay, Paris Olympics, maybe not so much of a hit. Hosting a Eurovision, clearly, this is actually the way to go. So the city of Malmo, which if you've ever been, so have you been to Malmo? A lovely city, really nice, but not necessarily mad on the tourist map. Saw occupancy rates soar to 60%, which is versus 30% for what they were the same time last year. Oh. Also, the price per night way higher, so way up. And double occupancy than what you normally expect in Malmo, which I think is just great. You probably got some data on it as well. But congratulations to Switzerland, who won this year. And you can kind of really understand why all these cities in Switzerland will be desperately trying to win the bid to host, because it's a cash cow. And I kind of thought, well, if you are a city, or a country that's really in need of refreshing your tourism outlook and bring people in to see it, clearly Eurovision's a great way to do it.
Yeah, it absolutely is. And you're right. Average nightly rates jumped up to 149 euros a night, which is well above kind of the 12-month average, which is about 109 euros a night. So it definitely is a cash cow. I think what else is interesting is the demand nights. So particularly in areas that are surrounding Malmo, I'm going to butcher these names, so please forgive me. But Staffanstorp was kind of the leader. And so they saw a 222% increase in demand nights for the dates surrounding the Eurovision Song Contest, which is really impressive. And then kind of second in line was Loma. So 147% increase. And then with Malmo, in terms of demand nights, we saw 136% increase. So really, really interesting driver of tourism and of bookings for short-term rentals in particular.
Yeah, very, very interesting. I'm really glad we did that focus. I think next week we should probably have a look at when we've next got you, Sarah, we should probably have a look at the data around the Euros in Germany, because they're coming up. They're fast approaching the soccer tournament. I think we should look at that too. But clearly we're seeing Eurovision more of a draw than the Olympics at the moment. Guys, let us know what you think at home. Any property managers we've got in that part of the world, did you see the bounce? Or just everyone's got an opinion, right? Where would you rather pitch your tent and go and stay? Eurovision or the Olympics? I mean, I think I'm doing both, Sarah. I think we could have fun at both. But let's find out back home where people are interested in going. What I guess the advantage of one is that it's it's guaranteed. You're guaranteed a good party, aren't you? Whereas if you go to the Olympics, you might end up getting, I don't know, fencing tickets or something like that, which I'm not sure how fun that is. So.
That's what I'm thinking. Also, I feel like with the Olympics, there's so much choice, and there's really only a couple of activities that I care about. You want to watch the gymnastics, because when the hell ever do you else watch gymnastics? Like, nobody sits down on a Saturday and thinks, let me go watch gymnastics. But for somehow the Olympics rolls around and we're all just mesmerized. Either that or some kind of really whatever crazy sport they've included, most recently. I think
what's in? Is it surfing? I think surfing might be down in Beirut. Is that right? I think that's the latest. I mean, I would. I mean, that I'm totally there for. Okay, great. Well, I'm glad we've done where are people staying. Let's continue to do that as the summer hots up. Next article we're going to go to is from EU Startups, and it is about Holidu. So Munich-based Holidu acquires the Spanish vacation rental portal Clubrural to expand in the tourism sector. So here we are, another week and another acquisition. Obviously, while we're in Barcelona, we had the news about Touch Day. Previously, we had the news about Guesty and Rentals United. Is this part of a wider trend, or I assume it is. I think we can't deny now that we're going to see lots more of this. It's starting to happen. 28,000 vacation rental homes in Spain and Portugal. That's Clubrural. So, I mean, this is not an insignificant size business, right? This is a really, really large operator. But when you take a sort of look at their website, it's clearly an operator that hasn't been investing in technology at the same rate that Holidu has. Yeah. And to me, it feels like it's pretty clear that Holidu's booking system will add something to people that use that website and book, and that will really enhance it. And then vice versa, the net benefit of people going the other way and acquiring those guests as well. But essentially, what's also really interesting is it's the rural market, which, without knowing too much, again, what Holidu's existing market is, that rural market is really hard to get your hands on, and it's far less regulated because you're out in the sticks and they encourage tourism. So I think it's a really, really smart move on balance. And clearly, what they can do is they can put their booking technology into what Clubrural's doing, they assume, and then ultimately they've just added to their supply base by 28,000. Now, alongside that 28,000 listings, they've also got, they say, every year 15 million visitors to the website. So, I mean, great. If Holidu can start converting those and bringing them into their wider portfolio, it seems like a really good deal. But when I look at it, what really strikes me is that, and again, I'll go back to that point, is we're all looking for sort of bringing newer inventory. It doesn't have to be new inventory. This rural inventory is probably very old, but this, to me, feels like they've gone and found something where they've probably got a gap and thought, we can bring this to market. And I bet a lot of these rural villas and places with a pool maybe are only listing on Clubrural. They're actually not completely exposed across the internet. Who knows? But yeah, so it seems to me like great way to stay away from regulation and a great way to bring some new supply on the market. Sarah, what do you think?
I would totally agree with you. I think three interesting things here. The first is the acquisition style. So we've been seeing this in the industry for quite some time now, where it's the easiest way to kind of expand a business, in particular, if you think that there's a competitive advantage to you doing so. So you brought up a great point earlier about the technology. So I think it's something that Holidu's done a really great job of. Obviously much more sophisticated. And so it can only bring up sort of the standard of what's happening. I think the other point that you touched on, which is worth exploring further, and probably something that I think we'll continue to see in terms of a trend in our industry, is the movement more towards what I would consider what have always been kind of vacation rentals or holiday homes, which do tend to be more out in the sticks. They're in less regulated areas. And I think the really interesting thing here with this acquisition is also they are gaining supply in places where maybe people have been much more analog about the way that they go about things. And so I think it's bringing that digitalization in, it's increasing that supply, not only for in terms of number of bookings and visibility for the owners and for the operators of those properties, but also for guests. You know, I mean, I don't have a percentage of, you know, how many reservations are made that are made always through an OTA or through some kind of website or web portal, but I'd imagine it's the vast majority of them. And if it's a smaller site that nobody really is looking at, then you're going to have less visibility, lower chance of booking. So even for us as guests, it gives us more opportunities to find cool places to book. So I think really interesting. I mean, we'll see kind of how it develops, but I think the technological advances there and expansion of the supply is kind of what stands out for me.
Yeah, I can see why they did the deal. Had you heard, being based in Spain, have you heard of Clubrural?
Never heard of them.
There you go. Been in Spain.
Never heard of them. There's a whole bunch of other ones in Spain, like Clubrural and the ones that I have heard of, but they're kind of a nightmare, to be honest, because you go on the websites and you enter your dates and then it says, okay, contact the owner. And it's like, well, then, you know, if I have to, and then you contact the owner and it pretends like the dates are available and they're like, oh no, we're fully booked for that. Like, it's just, it feels like something out of the 90s. Like, what are we doing here? Why do you even have a website if I can't book anything?
Yeah. Well, I mean, they started in '97, right? And I'm just thinking, I'm laughing to myself because obviously when we were kids, we'd occasionally go to Spain, and you know, my dad would find it in a brochure or a magazine. And my dad was always the holiday booker in our house, and we, you know, find it in a catalogue or say like the newspaper. So I may well have stayed in a Clubrural at some point in my childhood, but clearly that's what we mean when we're talking about tech-enabled and advanced booking systems. Is that idea to have the calendar synced, live availability, enough trust built in that process of taking the booking that you know the guest is who they say they are, the credit card details been vouched for, and that's all the things that Holidu have done really well, right? And they'll have their own payment gateway to make sure that, you know, to lessen the chance of a chargeback and all of that good stuff. So that really is it. It's amazing that deals like that are still out there to be had, but maybe you're right. Maybe there are others around Spain which have still got a really loyal following of people booking them because they booked them for 20, 30 years, right? And they're quite comfortable with that idea of you make an inquiry. 48 hours, 72 hours later, you get a reply. You confirm your week and off you go, right?
Yeah, I think that we've come a long way since then. I wouldn't book a property that took me that long to to reserve. I think I'd already have another option ready to go.
Yeah. I think that's right. I do think that's an age thing, isn't it? You know, like we're a generation on maybe from doing that. Whereas there's maybe a slightly, dare I say, older owner who would be nervous about the idea of someone booking their property without the ability to sort of sense check them. I think this is probably not the last acquisition we'll be talking about this year, which is exciting and interesting. So I'm really interested to see what comes next. But yeah, I think we both agree on balance. Good bit of business for Holidu. Yeah,
absolutely. I think this is a great segue into how you could have gotten some money back for your trip in Barcelona, Leo. What do you think?
Yeah. So article number 3. From short-term rentals, well done, Paul, again. Home to Go and Weather Promise, partner for weather protection. Sarah, tell us a little bit about this one.
Yeah, absolutely. So basically, and I did a play around on their website earlier because I was super curious. But essentially, Home to Go is partnering with a company called Weather Promise, and what this company does, it's sort of insurance for rain. So you put in the amount of your accommodation, how much it costs you. You put in your dates of stay, and then they give you a price. They tell you I guess they look at the probability that it's going to rain during your dates of stay, and then they come back and tell you, okay, if it rains more than 4 days during your 10-day stay, we'll give you your money back. From an insurance company perspective, I don't know how the hell this works. I'm sure somebody smarter than me has really great algorithms and stuff that I'm sure they've figured it out so they don't lose money. Either that or they'll be going bust in 6 months. We'll find out. But for Home to Go, I think it's a massive win because in particular in markets where, unlike Spain, where there is a much larger sort of shoulder season and people are maybe less willing to book because of potential weather, it could be an interesting thing. Maybe getting people more ready to book in those kind of off-season moments. I don't really understand how they're going to make money, to be honest. Like I ran some simulations, right? I was super curious. So I thought, I picked two cities that I feel like probably have very different weather. So Barcelona, where I'm based, and Munich. And so I did two simulations. I did one for a trip that would have cost me $500 for a 3-day trip in Barcelona. Basically, it wanted $26, so $26.25 for a 3-day trip in Barcelona. That would have cost me $500. If my trip was a little bit more on the luxury side and it was $1,500, so about $500 a night for the property that I'm looking at. If it rained 2 out of the 3 days of my trip, I would get the $1,500 back, but it would cost me $78.75, so just shy of $79. Whereas in Munich, somehow in this one it made sense, right? For the 3-day trip, it makes sense. Munich, you've got $112 for the $1,500 trip is what it would cost you, and $37 for the $500 trip. So you think, okay, Munich, probably shitter weather than Barcelona. It tends to make sense. But when you look at a longer trip, which is, I don't know, maybe it's because of the probabilities. I'm sure there's some kind of, risk algorithm at play here. But if you're looking at a 10-day trip, the cost in Munich is actually less for that insurance than it would be in Barcelona. So cost in Munich for a 10-day trip would be $75, which is even less than it would have been for the 3-day trip in total. So, I mean, the math makes no sense to me. I have no idea how they're going to make money. And it has to be a probability thing. I think if it works, it could be a really great initiative. I think for Home to Go, it's a no-brainer to align themselves with, a company like this, in particular in markets where weather is more unpredictable. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know how they're going to make money.
Yeah, it's bizarre, isn't it? Again, I'm totally with you. For Home to Go, absolute no-brainer. Like, why wouldn't you put this partnership together? Or I'm sure the partnership was initiated by Weather Promise. And I do think it's really smart. You can do a lot of good press around the idea of you're extending shoulder season, or you're giving people more booking confidence in shoulder season. And so, like you, I'm quite, I guess, pessimistic that the insurance company can actually make this become viable. But I guess they are looking at the prediction of at time of year, what's the likelihood that there'll be rain or there'll be bad weather. And I guess if someone books closer to the arrival date, you can actually use more real-time data, so it might be even more accurate, and you can price accordingly. And it's a really fun idea as well. Like it's for all of us as travel people, like it's a really cool concept, isn't it? The idea that you can book more aggressively in shoulder season and no. So that being said, I was thinking about last summer, and we were going away later. It was my fault. I had a few conferences, and we ended up not being able to go away till the end of September. And we were racking our brains at, like, where can we go? And we didn't want to fly too far with our daughter because she was at the terrible age where she'd be running up and down the aisles and all that sort of stuff. So I'm fighting all these circumstances, and I'm like, God, actually, it is right. I'd probably click and buy that product because I'm taking a risk. So I'd be a customer. I just don't know if the insurance company can square the circle and make it work. But I like it. I certainly do like it. And it's cool that people are using technology, and in this case, I guess, weather algorithms to make sort of cool products that get customers thinking about it,
Yeah, I think the thing they haven't thought about, maybe just to play devil's advocate, is like, even if I get money back for my trip, well, I'm still stuck inside 3 days, or I have to, take my 3-year-old to a museum instead of whatever the plan was, and some cool outdoor hiking adventure. I don't know. So I think it depends very much on the type of vacation that you're looking for. And ultimately it depends on kind of why you're going on holiday. If you're going to relax and, have a nice time, okay, maybe I've got 500 extra bucks, but I lost 3 days of my holiday. So I don't know. It's for me, it's definitely innovative, but it's kind of weird.
You're going to the spa though. If you with $500, you're going to go pamper yourself at the spa. Me, stuck inside with a 3-year-old, my holiday's not going to be relaxing in the first place. I don't even know why I booked the bloody holiday.
You can hire a nanny, Leo. Hire a nanny with that $500.
Sarah, that's such a good point. It's such a good point. God, that's a good point, isn't it? Yeah, for the whole time. Oh God, bring on the rain. Bring on the rain. Then I can go to the spa. I'll go to the spa. The nanny can take.
You're hoping for it.
Yeah. 3-year-old in a museum as well, Sarah? No chance. The only place you're taking that 3-year-old is a soft play centre when it rains. All right, good. Okay, good. I enjoyed that one. final one, an article from FocusWire, how Google's gatekeeper changes in the EU are affecting hotel clicks and bookings. This one's really interesting. So the gatekeeper status. So let's go into it a little bit. The Digital Marketing Act, designed to actually protect smaller companies from larger tech platforms, is arguably having a reverse effect here, because people use Google Maps, people use Google Search to find hotels, direct booking websites. Mm-hmm. This act from the European Union is saying that a gatekeeper business, which Google is, cannot give preference to its services over another. And therefore, these direct booking websites of hotels are actually being put further down the search rankings, and intermediaries like Booking.com, Airbnb, Vrbo are finding themselves going up the rankings. So not great for consumers, because they're ultimately having to deal with more intermediaries, more clicks during the buyer journey, and not good for the producer, because in this case, a hotelier, but just as easily could be short-term rentals. We know Google Vacation Rentals is on the way, and I myself have used Google Maps to click and find hotels and search them if there's a particular beach you want to stay at. So it makes searching harder, less intuitive, which is not good for anyone, and then puts the intermediaries right in there. And you know, clearly an interesting piece of legislation, but not completely thought through here. If you think that it is giving more bookings to an OTA, where a direct booking website is being less favored. Now, we've got some data on this as well here in the article, which I think is really interesting, is that people are reporting a 30% drop in clicks to websites for hotels, direct booking websites, since the Digital Markets Act has been initiated. And it's not happened across Europe yet, but in the markets that has, this is what's happened. 36% drop in direct bookings in those affected markets as well. So it seems, cause and effect, it seems like the ruling has actually backfired, which is interesting. So again, like, you know, instead of providing that greater clarity for the consumer and a more streamlined journey, you've actually made it more convoluted. And for the person who's actually trying to provide a service, you've made them further away from their customer. So, I mean, it does look like a big own goal. Clearly, it's in the news as well that Booking.com have also been told that they're going to get gatekeeper status. So this competitive advantage they've got at the moment in Europe will be reduced, and there might be implications there for them too. But yeah, I think at the moment it's showing that the law is not working as it was intended to. So yeah, really, really interesting. From my point of view, I think this is just a no-brainer. I mean, everybody uses Google to search, or the vast majority of people use Google to search, and not just Chrome, but very much using Google Maps as well. So I think, yeah, I feel very passionate that this is one that's got wrong. I'm not that the EU's got wrong. I'm not saying that they're not trying to do the right thing, but I just think the way it's been executed is clearly leading to a worse situation for consumers. So very, very counterproductive. Sarah, thoughts on it? Any data, anything to add to it?
No data to add to it as of yet, but I do think that absolutely the consumer is the one who's being really handicapped here. I mean, I use the map functionality, can't click on the map anymore. It's really irritating. Aside from me, like as soon as it happened, I started Googling. I thought, oh, of course it's some EU regulation. Great, thanks guys. But I think that the real crux of the issue here too is price parity. So I think one of the things that the Google search was doing really well was, hey, here's this property, and you can see every single price. And so in my mind, that's why the direct bookings have gone away, not necessarily just because they're less searchable, but because you don't know where else to even find it. You don't have the price comparison. So you just think, well, whatever, I'll go to the OTA. And who's to say that then from the OTA, you're not then going to the direct booking? But I guess like it just seems silly to me. I don't understand how pushing people to an OTA where they then may or may not click in to potentially book direct. It's the same process. It's just taking Google out of the mix. And ultimately, then you're relying on just the price that you see on that OTA versus the direct booking without having all the different options that I think we've kind of grown accustomed to. So no doubt in my mind, it's worse for consumers. If direct bookings are going down, it's worse for owner operators as well. And I'm curious to see, if everybody's going to the OTAs now, what does that mean now with Booking.com having gatekeeper status? how is that going to be impacted? I don't know. It's, as often happens, it seems a piece of legislation that somebody thought this is going to be great, and unfortunately it hasn't had kind of the results that we might have hoped. So I don't know. I'm curious to see how it evolves. Maybe they'll reverse it, maybe not.
I wonder if you'll have OTAs doing brilliantly until they get gatekeeper status, right? So they'll just take it in turns to boom. After Booking.com, it'll be someone else, and then they'll be like they'll get on the radar too much and end up with gatekeeper status. Yeah, someone just doesn't understand the landscape that they're regulating. That's the bad thing. It goes back to what we said in Barcelona when we chatted, Sarah. We got to get policymakers to our events. We've got to help them understand that actually people are using search as a way of bringing their guests directly. It's not the same as competing with OTA. Now, again, there's wider implications in this, and obviously, clearly, there's more at play here with the regulation than just that. But I think that's obviously been missed here in the planning. One part of the legislation I pulled up when I was reading about it in prep for the podcast is there's a section on data sharing, which I'll read to you, which is gatekeepers must share data with competitors and allow business users to access the data they generate. This aims to level the playing field and promote innovation. Now, that could be the really interesting one around Booking.com getting this status, or indeed Google. Is that actually you're as an operator, you're desperate to get your hands on that information, right? You're desperate to find out who that guest is and get close to that guest. So, I mean, if people start actually sharing the data, that has real implications. Whether it will ever happen, I don't know. But have you got any thoughts on that, Sarah?
Yeah, I mean, I think two things here. One, what does that mean? So it's very vague. Data, what kind of data, what kind of usage stats, what are we sharing, what are we not sharing? And then I think the other interesting component is this is exactly like SEO. So as soon as Google updates their algorithm, it takes people a couple of months to figure it out. Once it's figured out, then everybody's on an even playing field anyway. And then it's kind of like, what's the point? There's no competitive advantage to anybody doing it. You're all just following the same rules of how to get SEO up. So I don't know. I don't think it's necessarily going to have the impact that maybe the EU was hoping for. I think it's another scenario where trying to protect the consumer has made their lives more complicated. And I don't know. I'm also curious about what this means for the future of Google Vacation Rentals, because, this launch has been much anticipated. If they're not allowed to give any preference, you're not allowed to link to things. It's even more, I would think. I mean, it's going to cripple them. I just don't see how they can launch how they ever intended to if they have all these restrictions in place.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's why the article caught both our eyes, right? Because it's like the implication for what's coming next for us, which is Google Vacation Rentals. Yeah, I agree with what you've said. That I think primarily that's why I'm against it, because I think in trying to make things easier for consumers, things have been made harder. And it's not that people shouldn't use an intermediary to book, but they should, as you said very smartly, they should see the options. They should see the price comparisons. Some people, they go straight to Booking.com to make their bookings. Others start with a Google search. And all we've done really is just make Google search less effective. We haven't managed to kind of clean up. We haven't managed to give prominence to the supplier or the person buying that thing in the way it was intended. So I think ultimately we have to say a complete fail, actually.
It's a no from us.
Yeah, it's a real no, and I was very anti-Brexit, but so just to make that clear, I am very pro-EU, but for this, I'm not on the EU side. That's enough. No more politics. Okay, great, Sarah. Packed agenda. It was great. It was great doing that today. Loved it. Am I going to get to see you next week? You going to come back and see us next week?
Yeah, come back and see you next week. So I don't know how you guys have swindled me into.
Good,
to just join us all the time. No, I have a great time doing it. So look forward to seeing you all next week. Yeah.
Perfect. Let's do the Euros. Let's make it as sport focused as possible, just to irritate Rafi as much as possible on that score. Look, enjoy your week, Sarah. And to everyone at home who's had a listen, if you've enjoyed the show, please hit follow, like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff on the social channels. And we'll look forward to seeing you next week. Thanks.